Shad, how do you feel about OnlyFans? You as a married Christian man.
It's the fall of civilization, Carl.
Well, it pretty much is. I mean, it's not overstating it.
Like it is a sign of society's degradation, and yeah.
Would Augustus have permitted OnlyFans? The answer is obviously no. If anyone knows anything about Augustus,
you can look at so many points in history and ask that question. Well, like, would society have permitted something like this? And look, yeah, you'll find some instances. But you also see where those societies end up going if they are going that far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As you may know, YouTube arbitrarily demonetized our channel, so I'd like to thank Lotus.com's first sponsor, Atlas VPN, for supporting us and providing a service that is actually useful as we move into our new cyberpunk dystopia. Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the description to sign up. You'll be liberated from region locks, so you can watch streaming content from anywhere in the world, but I think more importantly is that it masks your IP. Firstly, this prevents us from being spied upon by the various state dragnets. We find it important that it keeps your Google searches private, which prevents them from tailoring the results based on your past searches, which prevents them from hiding information because they've built up a profile against us. It also protects you from being the target of malicious ads, trackers, and malware, and informs you when someone is trying to steal your data. There has been a spate of people getting their accounts hacked recently, and Atlas VPN helps protect against that. Atlas VPN is also easy to install. Even I could do it without assistance. What you're seeing now is the footage I recorded of myself installing the thing. Once you're logged in, you can see that you just need to click on the location that you want to tell the internet where you want to be from, and you're all set. To repeat then, Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month with a 3-month extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the video description to sign up, and remember, supporting them is supporting us, so please do check them out. This is, honestly, it's a genuine, I think it's one of the scourges of the internet, because it's one thing saying, well, prostitution has always existed. So yes, of course, prostitution has always existed. But the problem, the limiting factor with prostitution is that you are a woman, you are one woman in a place and a time, and you can only really have one client at a time. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of limits the amount of prostitution you're actually able to do. And so the problem is kind of contained in its own physical shell. However, with the internet, when you abstract this
scalability
and scale it up, then you can essentially be a prostitute to millions of men.
Yeah.
This is a problem hitherto not experienced by the human race.
No, and it's a challenge. And this is also just pornography as well in general. Okay, because once upon a time, when it wasn't so easily accessible, guys do, shock horror, men are attracted to women.
Guys did great things when it was difficult to see boobs.
Yeah, unbelievably, yes.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Like there's the old romantic, chivalric kind of ideal of the lady fair that the man would go off and perform grand, incredible feats to win her favor. Okay, the idea that you have to work to achieve this thing, this goal, and when it was limited, well, it obviously caught like, guys, if you really want to see boobs, right? Yeah. You're going to actually have to go out and do things to earn it, of course, and the right way. And that was actually one of the motivating factors. You take that away, and humans have it's an unfortunate inclination towards laziness.
Yeah, make it really easy to see boobs. Yeah, and they don't bother doing great things anymore. It's true. And this is why feminists won't talk about OnlyFans, which is also the topic of Thomas Dowling's amazing deep think on the subject. Because really, you'd think that feminists would have a lot to say about OnlyFans.
You would actually.
You would be like, hang on, isn't this the commodification of women's bodies to the male gaze over a mass market phenomenon? This seems like it's actually a kind of way of dehumanizing and just commodifying women.
But in
a way that would be unacceptable to them.
Exactly. But the problem is women being free, sexual liberation, and being
they're on the horns of a dilemma.
Exactly.
Women are free to commodify themselves and just sell themselves as sex objects to men who don't respect them but have £5. You know?
Yeah. And so there is a distinct contradiction in the narrative that they've pushed for so long that it is completely. So I could absolutely see it would be so embarrassing if they actually tried to talk about this openly and honestly.
What can they do?
Yeah. It's just, so what you're saying is certain things you've pushed for, like, with incredible insistence in the past, to sometimes unhinged insistence has some really terrible outcomes.
Let's have a look at some of this terrible outcomes, shall we? So this is Business Insider from one woman's experience. I regret doing OnlyFans when I turned 18. People treated me like an object and the money just wasn't worth the degradation. Again, feminists, are we hearing anything? Young woman treated like an object, degraded, crickets. Absolute crickets from feminists, right? So this woman says, when I turned 18, I did something that I thought would help me feel empowered as a woman, but instead it left me traumatized. I joined OnlyFans. I spent 3 years as an OnlyFans creator, but looking back, those were the most miserable years of my life. At the time, joining OnlyFans felt like a natural progression. I was already posting bikini pictures on Instagram, so I didn't really feel like there was a big difference between posting photos there and posting them on OnlyFans. And to be fair, it's not a great leap, is it?
You know, that was the thought I had in my head. I was like, because honestly, this is the thing that people might not realize is that even wearing a bikini is actually exposing a lot of yourself online. And it can be highly sexualized. In actual fact, I don't consider pornography necessarily nudity. I consider it images that are designed for sexual
content.
Exactly. And they do not need to show quote unquote nudity to be pornographic.
And everyone knows this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they don't. A lot of people don't like to admit it. They will say, like I can post images of my bikini body online, and that's not me doing anything over the line. I was like,
sure, but then everyone knows that Netflix's Cuties was way past the line.
Yeah, unbelievably. Well,
none of them were nude, but everyone knew it was lewd and disgusting.
There are people that defend it, Carl.
But those people,
they out themselves.
I was going to say they should out themselves so we can know to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that. So she carries on saying, I saw other creators talking about how being an OnlyFans creator was empowering and a way to be in charge of your own life. And all that sounded good to me, but the reality of what actually happened was nothing like that. During my time as an OnlyFans creator, I was more depressed and anxious than I've ever been before. I was making really good money, on average $20,000 a month, but I felt like my subscribers were constantly pushing my boundaries. And this is the thing, that is a lot of money, right? 20 grand a month for a person just receiving their bank. They're like, oh my God, that's not going to come without cost.
Yeah.
Like there is a price for that kind of money.
Very steep price.
And this is what she's getting at in this whole thing, right?
But she's going to probably go into some of the realization of what she's ruined by doing this choice. But even then, I'm not sure the true magnitude of the damage that she's caused by that decision is probably going to have on her life. I mean, there is something so beautiful and wholesome about an intimate relationship with someone you love that is kept private to those two people, right? And men have a natural instinct to want that. Hence, there is a natural avoidance with, women with high body counts and things like that, because that type of connection and intimacy feels like it's been invaded upon.
Or maybe even not possible.
Yes, even that. And so that's going to make it so hard for women in her position to try and have that, let alone so many other problems. That's on the internet forever.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're not going to look the way you do forever, by the way.
Yeah.
And if you do have kids and
they're going to see it.
You have created a legacy. Yeah. Okay. And these women are not thinking about what type of legacy they want.
No.
They're just thinking about the here and now, the immediate gratification, the money.
It's 20 grand a month.
Though, you
know.
And when women start to come to realization of that, it hits them hard. And then there's a deeper part that if they realize what potential that they have robbed themselves of, that's a very hard thing to confront. And by the way, I think that's why a lot of OnlyFans girls are so deeply in denial about, I'm empowered, this is great, you should try it too. Because if they admit it, that can be very confronting. So let's try and avoid that as possible. And no, I'm doubling down, this decision is great, I'm empowered. And then misery loves company.
And I mean, listen to this, right? She says, no matter what I posted, they wanted more explicit content. What a surprise. Look at the kind of people you have solicited for your online career, right? I ended up sending nude photos a few times, even though I didn't want to, because I felt so pressured and they were offering so much money. I would also receive terrible messages that were so degrading, and I didn't see any filtering systems on OnlyFans to block them. Surprised there's no block function on OnlyFans. It was obvious that they saw me as an object for their pleasure and not as a person. It was awful being constantly sexualized to such a dehumanizing level.
What did she expect?
Exactly. What did you expect?
Like they were seeing you as an object. What do you think of that?
You're literally a service. This is what a prostitute is.
But that would be a question I would put. What were you expecting out of that? Were you thinking that they would see the person behind the boobs?
Yep. And she says, for all the money I was bringing in, I was spending it just as quickly. I spent money to mask my depression and anxiety. I got used to a luxurious lifestyle. Well, I'd go on fancy trips to beautiful locations to shoot content in a new setting. Each time I'd think maybe this will be the trip I'm happy on, but it was never true. I was always miserable. And she carries on like she thinks OnlyFans felt like a path to self-sufficiency, and for a time it was. The money was good, it changed her life, but she started isolating herself because she was depressed and lost the closeness that she had with her family. Her friendship started to suffer, and then her whole life revolved around creating content and talking to my subscribers. I spent at least 2 hours a day messaging subscribers and it took a few hours to shoot and edit the content. It was a full-time job, and she says she has no idea what she was getting into. She was young and naive and didn't see the big deal of posting sexy pictures. And then once she'd done it, there was no reason to stop since it was already there and she could just continue. But she says, I felt terrible. All the attention I was getting was creepy and making me sick. So subscribers kept asking for more and more, and I felt myself stepping past my own boundaries, and it left me feeling suicidal. I was close to ending my life, to be honest. I couldn't live with myself, and I felt like I was constantly on the edge of a mental breakdown. My life was spiraling, and I needed help. And then she found Jesus, actually. Not even joking.
I'm glad that's a good answer.
Yeah. Right. That's literally, she says, I found my way back to Jesus at the end of it, which is great. But why did she end up in that spiral in the first place?
Yes. And that's a societal issue. That's about the narratives and the standards that people are upholding and pushing.
OnlyFans have a response on this.
Oh, okay.
An OnlyFans spokeswoman, interesting, sent the following statement to Insider. OnlyFans is designed to empower creators to connect with their fans in a safe environment behind a secure paywall. Creators maintain ownership of all their content, and if the creator chooses to leave the platform, they can close all their accounts and delete all their content at any time. In addition, creators have the power to block or report users who behave inappropriately, and we take additional action where necessary. Oh, that's great.
There's a word there that perhaps I'd like to unpack a bit. She says empower.
Yeah.
Empower. I find that very intriguing because...
I find it sinister.
Yes, I do, because it's ultimately achieving the opposite. There is a type of empowerment women inherently have, and it's honestly being the gatekeepers of relationships. Okay,
sex.
It is. It's sex. Okay, the natural result of if you have one group that wants something more than another group, and
they make that clear to you all day, every day.
Exactly right, and the other group that has a lesser drive to offer that suddenly are going to be the gatekeepers of that commodity. It's just a natural byproduct of how it works.
I'm a gatekeeper of washing the dishes in my household. Mm-hmm. My wife really wants those dishes washed, but man, I don't care. I don't care. I'm just not interested. And so I have the upper hand here.
That's like, it's such a simple thing. But
it's true though.
Women have an incredible power in that if they restrict access to it. And this is why it's like, yes, it's the stereotypical feminine purity kind of thing, right? Is not something that is old, antiquated, and blocks people. No. If they understand that, they can use it in a very significant way to basically find a great man.
And you know what, right? I would not normally cite Andrew Tate on this subject, right? But he tweeted out something the other day that I think was actually really good. It was something along the lines of, women are born with magic. They have this magic in them. And every time they sleep with a man, they give some of the magic away. And if they sleep with enough men, then eventually they've lost all their magic and they can't get it back. And if a man collects enough magic from each of these women, like Andrew Tate obviously has, then he becomes a kind of status symbol in and of himself just because of what he's achieved. And okay, it's an interesting way of framing it, but honestly, I think there's a kind of truth to it.
Yeah, I would say a broken clock can be right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. I'm not...
Because there's something that's related to this that is a talking point he's shared as well about women are born with value and men are born without value. And I actually don't think that's entirely correct because men do have value, but it's a different type of...
Men have potential value.
Yeah, but they also, even from a very young age, they have strength.
Sure.
And ability to protect and provide. And that is an incredible inherent value that they can offer, and that suddenly you're seeing both sides offering something that's inherent to their natures.
But these things have to be worked on for men.
It does.
A man who's incompetent and can't, whatever, make a weapon or whatever, he's actually just potential value at that point. But women
I get what you're
intrinsically have that value.
Well, it will manifest, when they come to maturity, and you would.
Well, I say women.
Well, yeah, women, but if boys are raised right, that's going to manifest naturally as well.
Yeah.
But coming back to the whole relationship and gatekeeping of sex thing, right? If women actually understand the power that is by actually controlling who has access to it in the way that they understand, to get a relationship, that's empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, you have vastly more power. Like I've heard so many like exchanges between OnlyFans people trying to, and one was hilarious and funny where it was just a message exchange, something along the lines of, "I have an OnlyFans," and the guy says, "Okay." He basically dumps her. He's like, "Why did you dump me?" And his response was, "Well, why am I going to go out with you if I can get what I want for $2 or something like that?"
Which is literally what her grandmother could have told her.
Yeah.
No one buys the milk and buys the cow and they get the milk for free.
They give it away for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And look, the guy was obviously a shallow,
Sure, but
there's an underlining truth there that women, might want to pay attention to. And if they actually understand the power that they have, if they control access to something that is very intimate, all right?
Very valuable.
Very valuable, because then if they say, "I'm only going to allow any man to come close to having access to something so intimate, if it's someone worthy," okay?
The men will become
and
worthy.
Men will become especially if it's more. It would be less so now because society has flipped on its head. But back, in a more traditional way, men naturally understood that if you want to attract a good woman, you need to become a good man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look at this one. So this is just one I found on Reddit. I'm in an amazing relationship with an amazing man who I'm totally in love with. I'm blissfully happy. We have an open and honest relationship with something I love, but I haven't been totally honest about my past, right? So she's posting this because she's afraid. Mm-hmm. She has actually found that thing that she really wants. She is in this bubble of magic, and she realizes, wait a minute, this could all go horribly wrong tomorrow because, as she says, I made an OnlyFans account which only lasted for 1 month prior to meeting him. It was nothing hardcore, and my face wasn't in any of the photos. I also used a different name and have since deleted everything linking to it. But I regret it happened. It's something I regret a lot. And to any girls considering OnlyFans, please stop and think about how it may impact your future. I have a nagging feeling that I should tell him. Part of me feels like I owe it to him because I want us to know everything about each other without secrets. But the other part is terrified it will be too much for him. The other part of me thinks that I don't need to tell him because it happened before we met in a time when I was a very different person to who I am now. I don't want to know everything about his past relationships, etc., so he doesn't need to know everything about mine. I think to some extent, all people have skeletons in the closet, and I think that's okay. I guess I would like some advice. If I tell him, it will be game over. If I don't tell him, and our lives are amazing, it will always be in the back of my mind. But not only that, like someone could tell him, and because I've seen other stories where, like, this one woman had a particular tattoo on like a thigh or something, and someone sent her boyfriend a picture of her OnlyFans, and he recognized the tattoo. Relationship over. And that's what she's afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, she needs to tell him, especially just for that, because
if someone else does,
it's going to
be way worse.
Exactly, so much.
Because she can at least soften the blow. She said, "Look, I made a mistake 3 years before I met you. For a month, I opened OnlyFans because I had a bunch of people in my ear telling me it was a good idea. I didn't do anything too bad, and I've deleted it. It's been gone for years. But I just really wanted you to know, and I'm really sorry about it." And maybe he'll be like, "I've made mistakes too."
Yes,
right. Maybe he can be mature about it. And maybe it's a weight off your shoulders and you can relax. But the point is, where she's saying that to any girls considering it, stop and think about how it'll impact your future, because it will impact your future.
Yes, it will. And again, there are OnlyFans girls are trying to, because they get misery loves coming the whole thing, and they also say, "I have a boyfriend and he's fine about it."
Your boyfriend is a very low quality man who's not worth the salt that he would be paid in the legions, okay?
Good point. Because you're right. Like a man who would be okay with that.
Yeah, is not a man. No man that I would respect anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so the third one that I want to go through is a woman. Of course, joining OnlyFans has made me a fortune, but it's ruined my dating life. Who could have imagined?
Shock horror,
Prostitutes can't find boyfriend. More news at 10. She says that, I mean, and again, it's such a gilded cage that is being offered to women here, because I just can't, like, for you as a man, right? So assuming you didn't have a YouTube channel before you had that, right? And you work in normal jobs, right? What did you do before you had your YouTube channel?
Okay. Gosh. I data entry at office, basically, to summarize it as best I could.
Yeah. And how much data do you think you'd have to enter to earn £17,000 a month? It would have to be quite a lot,
much more important data than I was dealing with.
Exactly, right? Because she has gone from £600 a month to 17 grand a month. And so it's like, God, that is like the easiest way to make an absolute fortune. Like, that is such a staggering amount of money. There are people who make 17 grand a year. You know, like, that is such an enormous amount of money. And I'm just thinking of when I was 25, when, like this woman is, I was getting probably £1,200 a month doing crappy jobs. I remember when I first started getting £2 grand a month, I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know, I'm doing really well. And so, like, you can see how the streets are paved with gold on the way to joining OnlyFans, right?
I mean, though, women who are making that type of money on OnlyFans are the vast, vast minority.
I know.
Yeah, most of them are making pittance, and then they get all the ruination results on top of it.
Yeah, I've seen loads of those. I've had my OnlyFans for a year, and I made £700 in the last month. It's like, well, I mean, that's better than nothing, but like, still, like, I mean, there are way worse examples. And it's like, yeah, okay, so you've prostituted yourself for a very small amount of money. That's going to come back on you. But this woman says, when it comes to dating, she struggles to make it work, with most men struggling to understand her life. It's very difficult for me to find a boyfriend. I don't date often, but if I go, I have to say everything directly so there are no misunderstandings in the future. But mostly they don't really understand me and our meetings don't last long. So she's made hundreds of thousands of pounds, but she's lonely, is what she's complaining about. She's literally not able to form a relationship with a man. Even though she's a tremendously attractive woman, like, she should have no problem finding a man.
You know, you would think that. And obviously, a lot of guys first are attracted to women by their appearance, right? But it's interesting how as soon as you start spending time with a woman, it's the interaction personality that becomes the main thing. I remember going through high school, there were some really, really cute girls, right? And learning some of their personalities were just awful. And they became, like, when I looked at them, I would feel repulsion because of just how awful a person they were. And so for a guy, like, you know, you see this and, you know, higher end for a lot of guys. But what she probably doesn't realize that a lot of guys don't necessarily need the 10 out of 10 knockout. They're perfectly happy with conventional beauty and stuff that can just validate them and have a good relationship.
But also, women have a phrase called giving me the ick.
Interesting.
And this is, you know, when a guy does something unmanly, right?
Oh, okay.
And
I haven't heard it before.
Really? This is right. Okay. Well, this is something American women use. But, like, you know, a man who doesn't drive his own car or something gives her the ick. She's just like, oh, I'm not attracted to that, because she's looking for a manly man who acts in a manly way, right?
Could I just, like, it's interesting. Going into the dating scene, I never realized I had the opposite, something that attracted a woman because it was a manly virtue and everything like that. In my early years when I was single and working full time, I bought a house.
That's amazing.
And so when I met my wife, though, I was unemployed looking for work. And so that was a bit but I just said casually, because I was dealing with rent and things like that, and that I had a house, and she was really impressed. Like, I was a young guy already owning a house. And in retrospect, I guess it does reveal a lot about a person.
It does, yeah.
And
I didn't own a house when I was young.
Yeah, like it. Yeah. That was an impressive thing that got her attention. Anyway, which is clearly the opposite of. You know,
I had to rely on my good looks and charm. Hopefully, I have those. But this is the thing, right? Women have a phrase called "give me the ick," when they can't explain it, but it's just they find it gross, right? And they don't need to explain it, because it's just like, no, not interested. And this is the equivalent for men. When a man's like, oh, lots of men have seen you naked or had sex with you, it gives them the ick.
Yeah, in a big way as well. Yeah.
And I don't have a better way of describing it. You can be an insanely beautiful woman, but it's the ick.
Let me encourage another giving you an ick for a guy. Like, if you see a girl posing like that online, it says that she is narcissistic and she prioritizes vanity and she is putting value in her looks above other things. And it's the type
and needs validation from strangers.
Yes, validation from, oh my gosh. That is such a red flag.
Yeah.
You like avoid women like this, like the plague. And they don't need to be doing OnlyFans, by the way, but if they're posting pictures like this.
It can literally be pictures on Facebook with too much cleavage. It's like, what are you doing?
Okay. It tells you a lot about that individual just from that information.
Yeah. And so basically, ladies, why not listen to the other ladies who have been through OnlyFans, gone and made that mistake and said, look, I mean, you're free to do it because, of course, we're not the Russian Federation. We haven't banned it yet. And it's available to you, but are you sure that's wise?
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this one on the economics of empire with AA. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.